Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Malhama and the Mahdi. In this episode, let's discuss the tremendous task of the Imam Mahdi, the rightly guided one, the Caliph to come. If we seek to understand who the Mahdi is and what kind of tasks he has to seek to accomplish within his lifetime, it's very important that we seek to align our lives with his, meaning to come into right guidance alongside him and with him in all that entails. And from my perspective, this means a comprehensive, thoroughgoing, systematic, holistic approach to Tawbah, to Tazkiyah, and with the goal of going into an egoless flow state, a state of tawakkul, where we come into utter dependence and trust in Allah, and we flow in the directions that he sends us in a state of surrender. The state of surrender is Islam. One who is in a state of surrender is a Muslim in the truest sense. And this state of surrender is one in which all unhealthy, overly devoted attachments to false conceptualizations of people, places, things, and ideas and systems is all let go of, is all seen clearly and let go of, surrendered. That's all ego and that's all idolatry. And then we come into a state of clear seeing, of expanded vision, like an egoless flow state, a more expanded vision, a more expanded mind that's sharper, more critically aligned, a more expansive heart. Inshallah, we shall attain to this. We shall go into the deepest sajda and arise, rectified and made whole. For right now, as an ummah, individually and collectively, and worldwide, humanity is in a broken state. Broken, toxic, confused, misaligned, misguided, off path, devastated, traumatized. And we need to really, really seek now to come out of this and to come into a state of wholeness. Wholeness is to heal. So we have to heal. We have to let go of all toxicity. We need to come out of imbalance. We need to be harmonized. Our bodies and minds have to be harmonized. We have to harmonize with our spouses, with our families. We need to heal and make these relationships whole. We need to purify them. This is the path of the Imam Mahdi. From my perspective, he is within, like, when I read the Quran, I read it archetypically. From my perspective, a lot of the problems that we're facing as an ummah are rooted in unhealthy attachments to false conceptualizations of history and historicity. I mean, the biggest rifts in the ummah are related to different versions of history. So we have to find a way to transcend history and go beyond it. So we need to go into the spiritual reality. We need to seek truth as it really is. I'm not saying that there aren't historical truths, but that so much of what we consider to be history is falsified. You know, a perfect example is 9/11 onward. Ridiculous numbers of lies. The past 2 years, insane amount of lies. Now we're seeing with the moon landing, all the mushroom cloud, fear-mongering. Okay, so that's, I mean, we're talking, these are post-World War II things. You know, I mean, we see so many lies wrapped up with Sykes-Picot and the various partitions of countries and what appear to be blood sacrifices during independence times where, a nation is born in blood again and again. What's with this? Why do nations always have to be born in blood? That's interesting, right? So the Imam Mahdi, he has to see things clearly. Our tradition, Islam, is a tradition of Iqra, read. And this goes back to the historicity issue. people read they read that ayat within the Quran historically. They say, oh, well, that was the Prophet Muhammad receiving revelation, peace be upon him. And they're saying this is when he received revelation, and this was a command to him personally. So we're going to go and we're going to read this as, well, that was for him. And then, we have stories around that. And when you read archetypically, these stories all have an important resonance in a personal, transformative way. But by reading it historically, what happens is that actually, it takes the power away from the statement that's actually meant for the Muslimin, for the believer, for the mu'min. Because you personally, me personally, we are told to read. What are we told to read? As you read through the Quran, we are told to read the signs. Like every verse in the Quran is called an ayat. They are signs. These various symbols, letter forms come together to form words and to form sounds and words that have meaning attached to them. And then in context, then there's a bigger meaning, within a sentence, within phrases, within sentences, within paragraphs. But anyway, so the ayat, like ships on the seas are signs. Rocks and mountains and trees and plants and animals are signs for those who take heed, for those who contemplate and consider. The sun, the moon, the stars, the horizon. These are all signs for those who read. We're told to read the signs within. Well, what are these inner signs? Do you ever have reading classes at the masjid? I mean, and I'm not just talking about how to read, to do your ABCs, to learn some Arabic, but I mean, how often are you being taught how to actually read signs? And I'm not talking about a dream interpretation class either, where somebody gives you a prepackaged conceptualization about what dreams mean. But I mean, seriously, to read signs. How often are you going, so an example of a sign reading class would be, and that I think is a very beneficial one, is to realign ourselves with nature and to go out and do moon sightings. And to regularly go out and sight the moon and study it and observe it and go through its various cycles. And then as you do that through an entire month and then through an entire year, then you become familiarized by various patterns. To make our prayers, we are to align ourselves with sun and shadows. From Fajr to midday prayer, Duha, to Duhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha. So we're aligning ourselves with sign. We're with nature through sign reading. We are to be readers of signs. But it goes so much beyond that, because I mentioned that we're supposed to read the inner signs. What are the inner signs? Well, the inner signs, they are going to be things within you. So first off, to know your body on the surface and the inner part of your body, the subtle part of your body, so you could study anatomy and get a sense of the muscular and skeletal system. You could get a sense of the various organs, the sense organs. You could get a sense of, the sinews and the tissues and the veins, the arteries, the capillaries, the hormonal glands, the nerve system. So you could get a sense of that, but, that's still not all of what it means to read the inner signs. I would say that to read the inner signs, it right away comes down to breath and body sensation. It comes down to thoughts. It comes down to emotions. It comes down to the imaginal realm, like dreams. It would come, also within this range, it's going to be memories. Memories are part of the signs that we are to read. And so all of these are, and then to observe the pulse points, to observe the blood flow at places like the wrists, the jugular, the temples, various locations within the body. We are actually observing blood flow, which means we're observing the transportation of oxygen and waste through the body and nutrients. There are many different ways of thinking about this. And obviously when it comes to the breath, to observe the breath is the place where the two seas meet, because breath is outside of us and within us. And then there is a point where it is transitioning in and out. And then also body sensation. We have body sensation on the very surface, like through the skin, which is a giant sense organ. Among other things, it's a waste disposal system. It's a nutrition absorbing system and a hydration absorbing system. The skin is very important. And so we have various ways of reading tactily through the skin. Our nervous system extends throughout the entire body. And so we can actually observe pain and pleasure at the surface, just under the surface, and deep within the body, the bodily framework. We will find that the body and the mind are inseparable in some sense. I mean, there is a subjective separation that we can separate them for philosophical purposes, for scientific purposes, but not truly, not really. And you'll find that every thought that you have, every emotion that you have, has a body sensation that's threaded through it, and is always connected to the breath as well. These things are inseparable. So you have body sensations, mind and mental constituents. All this is within the context of reading the inner signs. The outside of the body is the surface of the inner. And then you go all the way in, and you won't really find a core or a center. Not really find an essence. Now there's also an energy that permeates us and surrounds us and extends out of us. Some people are aware of energy that can extend great distances, and we can extend our thought and our imagination in various ways. There are so many interesting aspects to this. But what I wanted to just focus on is that we are called to be readers of the outer and the inner signs. We can learn a lot about this process from reading text. And that's why it's interesting. Like in the Masajid, it would be very, very beneficial to actually have people, to learn how to utilize various aspects of literary analysis. To read for depth, to do close reading and deep reading, to be able to analyze text in various ways. You'll notice that in my videos, I'm always talking about reading. This is very much a reading tradition. I learned that in part. I was aware of that, earlier on, and that's part of what drew me into Islam. A number of things. I'll discuss that soon. A number of things drew me into Islam. But I would say that this reading conceptualization, there is a tremendous untapped potential, and part of the reason that we're in this mess that we're in is because people don't know how to read properly. And I'm not just talking about reading a book. I keep on pointing. We're supposed to read the outer signs and the inner signs. We're all supposed to, and reading is necessarily observation. It's close, deep observation of the outer and the inner signs. To observe is to read. It is to deeply listen. It is to deeply feel. We're using all of our senses to deeply taste, to deeply smell reality. This is all reading. This is a reading tradition. We're called to read. We should be the best readers in the world. Matter of fact, the Muslims should be looked at as the experts in all forms of analysis. Because the observation with presence, mindfulness, and appreciation, that is only the first step to reading, because you have to engage in analysis. Analysis must be just, meaning that it needs to be honest, it needs to be truthful, we need to see what's really actually there and not read things into text. Not read what we want, not read what we hope for, not read what we heard it was. I mean, that's really low level to be, reading other things into text. We need to see what's actually there, factually. So, this reading tradition is of great significance. And this is very much connected to the Imam Mahdi and to right guidance. Because to be rightly guided, we have to be just, we have to be merciful, we have to be compassionate. Justice absolutely requires that we see things accurately the way they are, that we assess them properly, that we're properly discerning, and that we make fair, right judgment. Not prejudgment based on incomplete data sets and wrong reading, wrong observation. And certainly not misjudgment, because misjudgment means, again, to have incomplete data sets or a wrong observation of those data sets, wrong categorization, missing patterns. So in other words, there's improper analysis, improper methodology. Most people who can read and write in our world are actually functionally subliterate. I mean, we can get by, we can read some newspapers, some blog articles, we, like most people have a quite limited vocabulary, and this is by design. We're not intended to be like because like nobody teaches how to apply these skills to the broader world, to the wider world, and certainly not to study what's inside of ourselves. It's like you might learn a little bit about this by going to therapy with a psychologist, right? And you might learn a little bit about kind of analyzing thinking about your dreams and your feelings and your emotions. That's actually, so you're learning a bit about reading. But in that tradition, quite often, there is a goal to get you to be attached to them and to develop a dependency upon them. And so they take what the goal is to simplify, should be to simplify things and to help individuals to work through their issues, to see things clearly as they really are, to process the information in a healthy way, to let go of what they need to let go of, to disintegrate the experiences, to see them clearly, to see the patterns, to read them properly, to purify them, to transform them, to reintegrate them as lessons that will be transformational and healing, and we can come out of a broken state into a healed state. So reading is taught in various ways, but we've barely scratched the surface on this, and we must become like the Ummah. Really, we should be the world leaders in all areas of scholarship. And when I say scholarship, I mean reading. Because necessarily, if you're studying the outer signs all the time and you study the inner signs and you come into a spiritually mature state, then you are going to become an arif. And by becoming an arif, all of a sudden you'll realize that you're an alim in various ways. You're a life scientist. That you actually have expertise in various ways. I'm not talking about alim in the limited Islamic sciences aspect. That has its purpose and place, just like everything else. It's like, to be a mathematics teacher, or to have a mathematics expertise. The Islamic sciences, they serve their purpose. I'm just saying that we always need to be aware of being overly dependent on any people or any system. When we talk about the Imam Mahdi, he's going to have to speak a lot of truth. He's going to have to be a deep reader of reality. And so anybody that's among his companions have to be deep readers, close readers. They have to be people of presence, mindfulness, and appreciation. People with hearts vast enough to contain all of creation within them. To appreciate all of creation is the deepest level of worship. I mean, like, besides, being dissolved, like to become egoless, to surrender everything to truth, to give it all to truth. I mean, it all belongs to truth anyway, but, all we really have is this little ego. So, we give it up so that we can be empty of all false conceptualizations, and then the prophetic reality can manifest, and the expressions related to the beautiful names can become manifest, and people will meet the realities of the prophets, peace be upon them. So what kind of, So first and foremost, I'm saying that the Imam Mahdi, to be, since he's rightly guided, he's going to be a deep reader. And this is part of the prophetic tradition. Guaranteed. If you've never heard that, then, then you've had a very shallow reading and teaching about the prophetic tradition. The prophetic tradition is profound. It is beautiful. Why do you think that over and over again, the secret brotherhoods always try to infiltrate and dismantle and destroy the prophetic tradition from within? And they go satanic on it, like Iblis the accursed, how he said that he would lay in wait and he would sabotage us. He would whisper in our ears, may Allah protect us. And it's very important to realize that the prophetic tradition is the Adamic tradition. We are all children of Adam alayhi salam. We come from the garden, and to the garden we intend to return. This is the path. What do you think paradise is? It's the state. It's a garden. This whole world was created as a garden, a beautiful garden. It's only our conceptualizations of it that separate us from the garden. Civilization separates us from the garden. Civilization is related to the word city. Why do you think that in the prophetic tradition, again and again, we hear about Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, the great city on the hill, again and again, the words used for the world, for the dunya in the negative sense, because we can read dunya, in different ways, the world, you've got the realm of nature, the earth. We've also got the man-made constructs. And the man-made constructs with satanic jinn thread-throughs and overlays, that includes what's been called Mystery Babylon the Great. It's been called Babylon. It's been called Rome. It's been called Constantinople. Which is interesting, is we've always got these, it's been called Jerusalem. It's very interesting. So the world, it's the city. So I would argue that the Imam Mahdi necessarily, because what I've been attempting to do is to align my life with his and to see clearly who he is and what he's all about. How can I put it? And I believe that this is what his close companions are all doing right now, all around the world. They're seeking to be rightly guided. People have all kinds of imaginings and misimaginings about him and his path. When you study the tradition, he has to bring justice. Okay? He has to bring justice. This is a big part of it. Or attempt to bring justice, the greatest of his ability. Which means properly reading and assessing, properly discerning, properly judging. And he's rightly guided. So so necessarily, my mercy overcomes my wrath. His job is not to be a dealer of wrath. Allah deals wrath. It's to bring justice, because in Islam, it's all about really. If you really look at it's kind of crude to say this, but to boil it down to its essence, although that's just subjective, it's not ultimately true, the essence. But when you get down to the heart of the matter, Islam is all about protecting the weak, the vulnerable, the innocent, the women, the children, the poor. It's about freeing the slave and not engaging in slavery. There are all kinds of lies that have infiltrated the Ummah from the very early days. This is threaded through the entire prophetic tradition. Anything that you see from the previous traditions, guaranteed it's happened within the Ummah, and it's happened to us, and it continues to happen. Does that mean that pristine Islam can be destroyed or infiltrated and annihilated from within? Not at the core of it, not at the reality of it, but the various expressions within the Ummah certainly can. Why not? If it's happened before, you think that it's not going to happen again? So, give this some thought, because all those things that the Quran is saying, they're giving us warnings to check ourselves, to give us a mirror. The Quran is a book of mirrors. Read it as a mirror. Read it prayerfully. Read it as a personal conversation with you. You've got the prophetic reality within you. You need to, anytime it's talking about some negative aspect, pray through it. Try to see how that is within you, and pray that you would see these qualities clearly within you and be able to dissolve them and let them go and work through them and transform them with Allah's help. Because He's the guide, He's the purifier, He's the forgiver. And then when there are positive qualities, pray that give thanks for them and honor them. Notice them in others and appreciate them in others and cultivate them further and share these beautiful expressions with others more. So this is all part of the Imam Mahdi's path. This is part of being justice. Also, it's all about being a peacemaker, a whole maker, a rectifier, a harmonizer, a reconciler, an atoner. Making right what was long wrong. So I'm gonna cut this short in a moment, but I want you to consider that some of the things that he's going to, some of his challenges, and this is why I don't envy what he has to accomplish in the least. Because sometimes I sit and I'm blown away by what a tremendous task he has ahead of him. Basically, he's going to be attacked by the Ummah intensively while outsiders are attacking him. This is prophecy and it's the prophetic path. So many people, they think they're going to stand with him and they're going to be first in line trying to destroy him. Think about it. He is not a prophet. He's within the prophetic tradition. He's a spiritually mature expression of the prophetic path in these times. But look what we don't really look what they did to so many prophets, or attempted to do to so many prophets, wanted to do to so many prophets. Peace be upon all of them. We're talking, tortures, imprisonments, executions, horrific executions. Exiles, disrespect, dishonoring, character assassinations. So many horrific things. So to imagine that he's not going to undergo such a thing is it's wrong-headed. And so we need to consider some of the things. He's going to have to find a way. Right now, we got major problems within Pakistan. Disunity within Pakistan among the Pakistanis, within India, within Bangladesh, and I'm talking within the Ummah, outside of the Ummah. And so just to unite the Ummah, he's got a tremendous task, because there are various stances on what it means to be a Muslim. So that's just South Asia. How to heal the rifts between the Bangladeshis and the Pakistanis. This in and of itself is a mind-blowing task. Mind-blowing. How many Muslims are actually making attempt to see the problems correctly and to find ways of healing this rift? To heal the rifts between various groups in Africa, in the Middle East. The Sunni Shia rift. The rift between various madhabs and the Salafis and the Sufis. Monumental tasks. That's not even getting down to different, all the supremacies that people have based on ethnicity and language, like Arab supremacists and, color supremacists, colorists, etc., the rift between men and women, the rifts within families and within communities. These are massive, and he has to make an attempt to address these things. So he's got to first work through these things within himself, as do we. Because I keep on saying people are waiting for this miraculous event. They're looking for this, I said in a poem that he's going to come and he's going to wave his hands and he's going to say, "Arise." And all at once, the Ummah is transformed. Is this really what you think? Seriously, think about, how do you imagine these things are going to take place? spiritual transformation is the great struggle. This is so challenging. It's so difficult. And that's why I'm saying if you got these imaginations about justice and it's going to be like, oh, justice is going to take place. We're going to go out and bring justice to the world. And you've never done any work. Where is the time to do work on yourself? When are you going to get this? Is it like you really think you're going to see his face and then all of a sudden it's going to melt your heart and it's going to be transformative? Perhaps. There are many ways to become enlightened. Many people have become enlightened through seeing something, seeing someone, by hearing something. People have become enlightened by sweeping the floor, by washing the dishes. I mean, we have many accounts of this, of being transformed and made whole. Now, typically, these are sudden enlightenment experiences after a gradual, intensive path. You know, it's like, so sudden enlightenment, from my perspective, comes in connection to gradual. And then there are these light bulb moments, these epiphanies, these lightning flashes that bring us closer and closer to the goal of becoming whole and upright and purified. I mean, because ultimately we're already pure at heart. We just have so many obscurations. It's all false conceptualizations. It's all clutter. Everything's already within us. This has been said by the prophets again and again and again. Like Isa alayhi salam says, the kingdom of heaven is within. You know? And so it's just sometime really sit and try to check your thoughts about these things. Try to, go over your thinking about the end times and why because I'm telling you, if people do not work through their issues, they're going to go out and be murderous. They're going to do murders straight up. Astaghfirullah. May it never happen. May they be eliminated before they have a chance to harm us like that. Because that is harmful to the Ummah if people are not on real justice. And they have really wrong-hearted imaginings about what justice is. I mean, look at the stuff that happened in Iraq, in Syria, in Libya. I mean, that's all complex, but it just gives us a little indication that, wow, we really need to check ourselves to, come out of mental illness, come out of mental imbalance, come out of wrong-hearted notions and conceptualizations about what's real and what's not. People have some really dangerous ideas about what it means to be a Muslim. And we need to work through these issues. We really, really do. And so I think that if we conceptualize of the Imam Mahdi's path in along these lines related to justice and truth and clear seeing, and in reading in the path of Iqra, and in holistic Tawbah and Tazkiyah and Tawakkul, and reading the Quran and Hadith and the broader prophetic tradition for themes, reading holistically, reading for themes for for the heart of the matter, which always comes down to Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And always, I know people are going to disagree with this, but really the whole prophetic tradition is about going back to the garden. And going back to the garden also means non-harming. So we eliminate harming to the greatest extent possible, and where we can't eliminate harm, we minimize it. And this is harm toward ourselves, harm toward others. This is in thoughts, in words, and in actions. Because I'm talking about pure and ethical behavior. I'm talking about ethical and energetic purity. This is the path of the Imam Mahdi. And it's all about truth-telling and behaving truthfully. And because of truth, that means that it's a painful path. There's a lot of suffering when we start to see things about ourselves and about the world, and we're seeking to resolve these issues and to work through them. I mean, the things that I've been shown about the world and the Ummah, it's very intense. And I've had a number of spiritual crises connected to this. It's a painful path. I mean, it's still a beautiful path, though. Ultimately, it's a very beautiful path. And I'm very thankful. I'm very appreciative to be walking this path, to be alive, even though the skies have all kinds of additives in them, and the water does, and the food does, all this devil tech. You know, we're in the devil tech era, and that's why we have to go back to garden-like living. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this short, but you are well loved and much appreciated. Until next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May we all be rightly guided and return to the garden together.